Well, John, really three different passages in the New Testament, which are the basic foundational passages for the whole doctrine of the rapture of the church. The first one is in John 14, verses 1 through 3. Jesus is gathered with his disciples in the upper room. It's the night before he goes to the cross. And he'd just been warning them at the end of chapter 13 that he's going to leave them soon. And they were really troubled over that. And he realized that, so he said to them, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, so that where I am, there you may be also." And here Jesus was giving a promise to his believers that even though he was going to leave them on the day of his ascension, return to the Father's house in heaven, that he wasn't going to leave them forever. That the day would come when he would leave the Father's house in heaven, he would come down toward the earth where they are, and he would come for the purpose of removing them from the earth and taking them back to his Father's house to live in the mansions or dwelling places which he would be preparing for them while he's away. And it's very significant, John, to see that he's declaring what the purpose of it is, so that where I am, there you may be also. A very personal note here that in that coming, he would come to take his bride, the church, so that they could be together with him. Second key passage is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 51 and 52, where Paul says to his readers, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." There Paul is emphasizing the fact that there would be an entire generation of Christians who would never experience physical death. And the reason they wouldn't is because the Lord was going to come and remove them from the earth while they're still alive before they would experience physical death. So he's saying not every Christian will die, but everyone will be changed. And he emphasizes that the change will involve a change in their body. They now have a mortal body, which is subject to disease, deformity, and death. But when this change takes place, they will receive an immortal body which will never die again, which will never be subject to disease and deformity. Paul's also emphasizing here the extreme rapidity of the change in the body of the Christians when this event takes place. The change in that body will take place faster than that, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. So the rapidity of the change in their bodies. That will happen at the rapture of the church. But the third and really the most extensive passage on the rapture is found in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18. And I won't take the time to read all of that, but Jesus is indicating there that the day is coming when he will come out of heaven. He will bring with him the souls of those Christians who've already died. When they died, John, their souls were separated from their bodies were buried in the ground, and their souls were ushered immediately into the presence of God in heaven. Paul in 2 Corinthians 5 says, "For the Christian to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord." And that's where they stay in heaven until Christ comes to rapture the church. He will bring their souls with him out of heaven down toward the earth. We are told that he will come with the blast of a trumpet, the trump of God, with the voice of the archangel. Apparently there'll be a great archangel who will accompany him as an escort from the Father's house in heaven. And then Paul says when that happens, some intriguing things will begin to transpire here on the face of the earth. The bodies of the Christians who have died will be resurrected from the dead, and the implication is that their descending souls that are coming down from heaven with Christ will be reunited with their resurrected bodies. But then Paul says that those Christians who are alive and still being alive on the earth when the event of the rapture takes place, that they, together with the resurrected Christians, will be caught up from the earth to meet the Lord Jesus in the air. Now, a couple significant things about that. The whole concept of being snatched up or caught up from the earth. That's where the concept of the rapture comes from. The English word rapture is derived from a Latin verb form, which means to be snatched or to be caught up. And so the bride of Christ, the church, involving the resurrected believers, but those as well have never died, will be caught up from the earth, Paul says, together to meet the Lord Jesus in the air. Another significant thing about that is that tells us that in this coming of the Lord, he stops in the air above the earth. He doesn't come the whole way down to the surface of the earth. As he descends from heaven, from the Father's house, he stops in the air above the earth, and he waits there as his believers are caught up to meet him in the air. And then Paul concludes with these words at the end of verse 17, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. That's significant because that means once we are raptured to meet Christ in the air, from that time on, we shall never be separated from him again. Wherever Jesus goes, we go with him. And that has significance for other future events that the Bible spells out in the Bible. So to put it all together, John, Christ ascended to the Father's house in heaven on the day of his ascension, Acts chapter 2. He's been away from us here on the earth ever since in the Father's house. But according to John 14, while he's away, he's busily engaged in his Father's house preparing living accommodations or mansions to which he can bring his bride, the church, later on. At the appropriate time, he will come out of the Father's house in heaven, bringing with him the souls of those church saints who have already died. He will descend toward the earth, but not the whole way down. He will stop in the air, will resurrect the bodies of the Christians who have died, reunite the returning souls with those resurrected bodies, will transform the bodies of the living Christians also into a resurrection type or immortal type body, and together those resurrected Christians and living transformed Christians will be caught up from the earth to meet the Lord in the air. And the implication, John, of Jesus' promise in John 14 is that he's coming to take them back to the Father's house in heaven so that they can live in the dwelling places that he's preparing for the believers now while he's there in the Father's house in heaven.